All right. Good morning, good afternoon. We are officially recording this today's lesson 3, plan the project. Today's lesson about plan the project. Before we start, I'm going to quickly address the last two lesson before lesson 3. That is lesson 1. Lesson 1 is about business environment. In business environment, we discuss foundation of the business, which align to the organization mission, vision, strategic goals and objectives, the portfolio within the organization that break down into the different programs level, and then they have multiple projects, and then the functional aspect of the organization. Now, that will lead us to the next topic on that business environment, which is how to align yourself as a project manager or project you're going to be managing into that strategic goal of the organization to ensure that you ultimately providing project benefit and value to the organization, to the end user, or to the specific clients to the organization. So that is the next topic we also discuss after strategic alignment, which is project benefit and value. So with project benefit and value, we discuss different values and we discuss different benefit for organization. Organization have financial gain. They have value for more customers or increase their size. They have value for regularization because of policy or organization trying to be in compliance to big scope of what you do. We talk about medical field. We talk about financial industry. We also talk about even IT industry, they have different standardization across different industry. So you have to align your strategic activities of your project into that benefit and value to the organization in order to be the value changer. I also mentioned yesterday that as a project manager, you are a change agent. A change agent is someone that brings value. Value is a form of a change, someone that transition organization from one point to the next, or someone that modernize environments, someone that innovate ideas or innovate culture and making a transformation within organization culture or creating products or services. And those are the things that make you a change agent. And that led us to the next topic on that business environment, which was organizational culture and change management. We discussed that every organization whereby that have structure must have some level of culture in line of two aspects we discussed: enterprise environmental factor (EEF) versus organization process assets. Those two, one is internal, one is external. One could be internal, external. So you have to manage both to that somehow, some way influence your project. So you have to keep eyes on those things because one could be on the external aspect. I was giving an example about asking for permits because I'm doing some construction. That is the external influence, and that is on the enterprise of what I do as a project in housing projects. I have to be in compliance with the county, and that is external factor, which is enterprise level, which is across the county or across the states. Now, I can also have my internal, which is organizational process asset, which means if I'm hiring, how do I solicit for talent? How do I seek for tools and material? Do I use used material? Do I use new material? Well, what is my approach of making sure I'm still making profit as an organization? So those are the things when you're aligning to the strategic alignment, the business benefits, and organization structure and change management, you have to put those things into consideration. And then the last two items on business environment is project governance and project compliance. We discussed that governance is basically saying how you operate, how you run your day-to-day operation as a project management or as a entire enterprise for your organization. Some organizations have We give an example like in some medical field, they have coordinator that give schedule, that give template, that give all that stuff. And some organization that's big, they call it um, project management office, or some also call them organization office in a centralized or decentralized. The purpose of that unit is basically to give directive or controlling or informative or supporting system to the entire scope of the organizational portfolio, programs, and projects. So that is your governance. And your governance is what that keep all the project management on the activities they are doing, all the deliverables of work they are doing in tracking, in monitoring and control, making sure things are in compliance, and you are also measuring the performance level for them to see, okay, oh, project manager A is doing well on their project because out of 10 items or milestones, they have reached 7, and we still have 3 to go, and then we are on time. All those are the measurement points for your baseline for schedule and all those other aspects we're going to discuss in the next lesson. So yesterday also led us to the next milestone of the lesson content, which was start the project. And start the project, we discussed about identify and engage stakeholders. Well, and then once you identify them, we have to see what level of stakeholders impact on your project. And stakeholders are people that have interest, they have the stake in your project. And we give example about internal stakeholders like investors, like employees, like decision makers within your organization. They have direct interest on your project, and those interests could be influential in terms of their power, their urgency, their legitimacy. Those are the factors that impact your project. You, as a project manager, has to keep them managed, and that's the purpose of you identify them as earlier as possible in your project, because you will know who to go to when your project gets stuck. You know how to escalate project when you are in need of increasing your budget. You know who to reach out to in terms of your schedule. All that is the rudiment of why you need to identify all the stakeholders. Now, we also mentioned external stakeholders. As I was mentioning about enterprise, environmental factor that impact your project. This is where you need to identify the external aspects. Like if I am getting a permit for my project for housing flipping, I have to be in sync with the local inspector. I have to be in sync with architect or zoning planning unit within that county. Those are my external factors, because they don't care about my success of my project, but they really care that I'm in compliance to what I'm doing. If I make profit or not is not their concern. Their concern is focused on being in compliance to the regulations. So those are your external aspects. So I identify those people, and then the other parties engaging them, making sure you feed them the rightful information on timely manner. So after you're able to do that, you go to the next phase, which is form your team. So after you have a scope of what you wanted to do, you are starting a project, you need a talented teams that are disciplined enough to help you do the work. And we were discussing about team yesterday. We also mentioned about self-organized team, some team that you need to establish that are self-sufficient and self-reliant, team that can operate on their own with minimal supervision. So those are the team you wanted to establish. So once you form that team, you have to build shared understanding. Shared understanding is whereby you establish ground rules, team charter, team rules, team regulation, team roles and responsibility to kind of establish where to go, how to communicate, how to share information. What are the cadence? We are talking about cadence in terms of meetings we have. Do we have weekly meetings? Do we have employee meeting? Do we have recognition for the employee? All those things are, you build a shared understanding how you wanted to run that team. Then after that, you now determine your project approach. We mentioned 2 major project approach, and the third one, which is the hybrid. The first is called predictive. I also give you other name for it, is waterfall. something that go in that sequential approach. And then the other one is called adaptive, or the name for it is agile, which is more flexible, friendly with changing, and allow things to run in a small win and providing results faster than predictive approach. So now today, we will go to lesson 3, and that lesson 3 is on the milestone of planning the project. Now we have idea of the environment we are operating. We have idea of the project we wanted to start. We know our stakeholders. We have formed our team. We have shared understanding within our team. We have determined that our project approach is agile, or we're going to hybrid both agile or waterfall, which is predictive and adaptive. So now for the next step, what is next step? What are the next steps or next items we need to do? We need to plan the project. The purpose of planning the project is to give you a full overview scope of what you are doing. It's like what we call journey map. If I'm going from my household to hangout spot in DC, I have to have an address of where I'm going. And that is ideally what is meant by planning the project. The project is to go from point A to point B. And how do I get there? What are the things do I need? I need the scope. The scope is I'm going from my house to restaurants in DC. Less specific. To be more specific, I specify the restaurants in DC. And then the schedule will be today. I'll put today's, and the time will be around 4:30 or so. Then resources is myself and whoever I invite, and I invite you too, all my people on the line. And then when you invite the resources, it's like you're recruiting them, you involve them in the project plan, and then how much am I planning to spend? I come up with a budget, and then what is potential risk? Why I'm going or about to embark on that activities to go to restaurants is where I have to identify, is my vehicles good to go, tires good to go, everything's good to go. Do I have my driver license in my wallet? Do I have enough gas in the car? Is the traffic, do I check the traffic? All those things, those are the risk management, which we were going to go in detail. I'm just giving you an overview. And then the quality is like, I decided to look into the menu of that restaurants. What are the quality of food I would like to eat? Am I going to local? If I'm doing the quality route, am I doing local route or I'm doing highway? Those are the quality requirements you consider in your project. Now, all together, I combine that together. It's called integrate plan. I integrated the plan into one project plan. And that is the whole scope of what we are discussing today. Who is ready to go? Any questions so far?
No.
Is it making sense?
Go to the restaurant.
Okay. Actually, that's my plan. We'll see.
Okay.
Okay, so lesson 3, let's jump right into it. Like I said, I'm going to streamline the approach because I just want to talk through it so it makes sense to you. So let's get started. Right. Okay. I'll talk through this. So I'm going to go straight to all the topics. All right. As we all know so far that we have 2 main project management approach. We have predictable, we have adaptive, and combination of both is called hybrid. It's like you have your hybrid car that can use both gas and you can also charge it. It's pretty much the same thing with project management. So for project management in the predictable approach, we were talking about predictable approach are common with construction industry, very common with the aircraft industry. They are very common in automobile industry because all their work is very heavy. The company that builds ship, the cargo ship or warship for military, they use predictable measures because they have to plan things in advance. They have fixed schedule. Everything is so fixed. Change is very difficult to make. So when you are using predictable approach. So when you are using predictable approach and you are doing your planning stage, you are planning what? You are planning ability to enable your stakeholder, your project manager, to execute, monitor, and control your projects. So the purpose of that document of your plan is to give that document to your project manager. Here's the project management plan. And you as a project management manager will now take that document and then go execute the plan. And then while you're executing, you want to keep your eyes on those things you have to deliver on timely manner. And that's what we call monitoring. And while you're monitoring, you are tracing that, oh, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. While you are monitoring, you can also do what we call tracking, which is controlling. You want to control, am I on track? Am I doing what I'm supposed to do? So tracing and tracking, monitoring and control is pretty much saying almost the same thing. And then you close when you get to the destination or meet your goal. So purpose of this is to kind of give you that baseline understanding. So on the other project management approach, which is adaptive approach is more of incremental approach. Incremental basically means let's do one at a time, little by little, and deliver small results. As we mentioned yesterday, instead of building a car one time in order to get me from point A to point B, adaptive measure will tell you, instead of building your car first, how about let me get a bike? Bike will get me, or let me get a scooter. Something that can transport me now. I don't have time to deliver things. What can transport me from my house to my daycare for my kids? I can use scooters. I can use bike. I can use motorcycle to transport me to the destination right now. That is adaptive nature. Adaptive nature is very flexible. But in a predictive measure, it will go straight, build me a car. I need a Toyota or Camry or Tesla or Range Rover now. And here's my price. Here's my budget. Predictive is very concrete and fixed in nature. But in adaptive nature, it's flexible. It gives you opportunity to testing. Is this thing going to work before I invest so much money in it? Let me try scooter. Let's see how long it takes me. In the meantime, let me use that to save money. And after I try scooters, then I can transition, upgrade to bicycle. After bicycle, I can upgrade to motorcycle. From motorcycle, I upgrade to now, let's say, okay, let me now go for used car. Used car less than $2,000. I can still move around. That is the adaptive nature. You are flexible. You are flexible to change. Nothing really tie you down. That is adaptive nature. So when you now combine adaptive nature with the predictive measure together, it is now where your team has to balance things in terms of planning. Like I say, I'm going to talk through all the slides because I'd rather talk through to make sense out of it. So in the planning across, like I mentioned, predictive, adaptive, and hybrid together. In adaptive approach, delivery, as I mentioned, is quick win. It gives you quick, immediate wins right away. In 2 weeks, in 1 month, I can quickly order a scooter right now, and it will get here in 2 weeks. Or I can do Amazon Prime, it will get here in 2 days. That is a quick win. I can move around right away. Instead of looking for a car at the auction and looking for money to buy it, it takes time with a predictive approach. So those are the things you wanted to consider while you're doing your planning and your life cycle. So let's go into those management scope. So the first one is we manage the scope. We were talking about the performance domain yesterday, and I was talking about performance domains are 8 of them. One start with the stakeholders, the other one is delivery, the other one is schedule, another one is budget, another one is a development approach, another one is plan project work, another one is uncertainty, measurements. I believe that's all 8 of them. So now, how do you apply into your management plan? When you hear the word scope, you are basically saying, what am I doing? Scope is basically the work you are doing. That's the simple way I can try to put it. So if I'm hired as a project manager, I just say, you're a project manager, but you don't give me the scope of what I do. So basically, you hire me as a generalist, like do everything as I assign you. You can do that. You can do indefinite delivery approach while you are doing your scope. But if you wanted to be more clear, I wanted to build a Toyota car, or I wanted to get a Toyota car. That is a clear scope. I want iPhone, and I want my iPhone to be iPhone 14 or 13 or whatever it is. Clear scope. So when you're talking about scope, you're talking about specific required need, requirements, another name for it, requirement, something you must have in order to meet your end results, something you must have in order to meet your services. If I am Xfinity or Comcast or all these cable networks that provide services, the scope of their work include providing internet, providing cable, they have mobile services, they have hotspot. These are the scope of their work. They have a model. That is the scope of their work. Now, when you're talking about scope, you're talking about what are the function and features, activities that entails within your project. So if I'm hired to manage one property, that is my scope. If someone now saying my job is to manage other property, you now increasing my scope because I can tell you that is out of scope. And we use another terms you can use interchange with the scope is like a boundary. And when you establish a boundary in a project, you have your scope. And that does not mean you cannot expand your boundary. And that is where adaptive nature welcome change approach in your scope. So when you think about scope, think about what is the required things to do for that specific work, or what is the project work, or what is the activities or list of activities I need to do or deliver to meet that requirements. So I'm going to skip with a lot of things because that's why I kind of talk through it. Scope will be flexible or fixed. We talk about agile is flexible, adaptive nature is flexible. Predictive is a fixed term. I'm building an airplane. Airplane, you have to set all the condition and code in advance. It's a fixed term. You can't make changes once it's built, and that's it. So there's no changing. If you build a car, you build it. There's no changing it. It's a fix. Those are the parameter I was talking about. Starting methodology work in different industry. If you are doing marketing is more flexible because you have to be flexible because human nature and customer nature change all the time. They have change in taste, change in location, all those things. You have to be flexible with those measures. So if you work with IT company, you have to be flexible. If you work with banking industry, you have to be flexible because people you are serving keep changing. You have to be flexible and able to change those things. There's another method of managing requirements or scope. It's called rolling wave. Rolling wave is basically using a sea wave to say sea as a ocean, it rolls in circle and deliver to the end of the shore in sequence, little by little. So rolling wave is what we call progressive elaboration. If I have an idea to build a house, okay, but I just have an idea. I don't have all the money. I don't have all the material, but I have the land. I can start from the smallest level with foundation. But I have an idea that, okay, I want 3-story, but I don't know how many rooms I want yet, but I know I'm going to 3-story. I can use rolling waves to start with one milestone foundation. After milestone, let's do German floor, all those details, and then the structural, framing, drywall, and then painting, then now start doing construction within the plumbing. So you use rolling waves to kind of break those work into different releases I'm going to do one to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. That's what we call rolling wave approach. Rolling wave basically means you don't need to have all the details, but you can have high level idea of what you wanted to do. If you wanted to establish business, have an idea of high level of what you need to get done, and then start from the smallest milestone and start breaking it down little by little and breaking down to the smallest particles. And that is a progressively elaborating your point into smallest details. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay. I need to play this video. Okay, I found it.
The cornerstones of Agile is to release incrementally, build a simple but complete piece, release it, learn from it, because if needed, and then do it again. But that's not all there is to it. What you build in each of these incremental releases depends on what your objective is. If you're going to figure out whether a new product or service is viable, you probably should release a minimum viable product.
1 second.
Checked. And then do it again. But that's not all there is to it. What you build in each of these incremental releases depends on what your objective is. If you're trying to figure out whether it but complete piece. Learn from it, pivot if needed, and then do it again. But that's not all there is to it. What you build in each of these incremental releases depends on what your objective is. If you're trying to figure out whether a new product or service is viable, you should release a minimum viable product. A minimum viable product is often a product with some functionality similar to but even before the idea is that you're trusting the world to get something in front of potential customers and learn what they really want. Because a minimum viable product is an investment for discovery. If you are expanding or enhancing an existing product or service, you probably should release a minimum business increment. A minimum business increment is the smallest releasable chunk of value that makes sense from a business perspective. A minimum business increment is an investment for minimum business increments is an investment for benefits.
Sorry, guys. I'm trying to play this thing simultaneously.
Steps of Agile is to release incrementally, build a small but complete piece, release it, learn from it, pivot if needed, and then do it again. But that's not all there is to it. What you build in each of these incremental releases depends on what your objective is. If you're trying to figure out whether a new or service is viable, you probably should release a minimum viable product. A minimum viable product is often a product. Some functionality is simulated. The idea is to do just enough work to get the potential customers and learn what they really want. Because a minimum viable product is an investment in discovery. If you were expanding or enhancing an existing product or service, from the leads a minimum business increment. A minimum business increment is the smallest possible chunk of value that makes sense from a business perspective. A minimum business increment is an investment in revenue. Minimum business increments offer central benefits. They add value for your customers. They help you determine if you're building the right way. They help you figure out if you're building the right way. They give you the way to determine if what you're building is actually useful. And they enhance your ability to evaluate things. Business increments are one of the most concepts in agile. Setting your agile increment.
Did you guys get value out of what I just played?
Not really.
Okay. Let me try to talk through it. So basically, if let's say I'm developing, let me give an example, minimum viable products. Okay. I was using an example about moving from my household to like my kids' daycare. That would be a typical example whereby I need something to mobilize me. I need something to mobilize me, at least on a small scale. I need something to mobilize me from my home to daycare. And I can start at the minimum level. What is the minimum acceptable mobile device I can use? I have options like scooters, bicycle, motorcycle. I have Uber option. I can use my own car if I have one. Those are the minimum viable options, right? Now, what is minimum business investment value to me is to say, what can I do that will not cost me so much and I'll still get me to daycare destination? Now I will now say, okay, let's go for scooters because scooter I can get it for less than $100. Versus if I invest in a car, it will cost me around it will cost me around at least $2,000 to $3,000 at the minimum. So that is a minimum viable product. Basically saying, what can get my business going or my business idea going at the minimum level? It's like before I build the real thing, what can I use to go test the market to see if I even have an idea that can be marketed? So those are the idea of minimum viable product. Does that make sense so far?
Yes.
So the next example I wanted to talk about is the product roadmap. I was saying something earlier that if I wanted to go from my house to restaurants, I will have a map. I can map out how I wanted to move, like navigating around the idea of me going from home to restaurants. And that is a vision, a clear vision that I wanted to go from my home to a restaurant, specifically in K Street, in DC. Let's say hypothetically the address is 2600 K Street, Northwest DC. That is a clear roadmap. So when you are creating a solution, you wanted to have an idea of the vision from the big picture, start to the end. That is the mapping out what you wanted to do on a high level. You don't need to detail every details within your idea, but you can at least have, okay, I go from my house, turn right, turn left, go straight to the highway on Route 50 East, and then go straight down, and I'll make a turn to Northwest. So that's your mapping out what you wanted to do. And likewise, that's also applicable to create a product or service or unique result for anything you wanted to do as a business or as a employee or as a service provider. You will have idea how to wanted to map it out. Like the training I'm providing, I map out after the training. You're going to do resume. You're going to do exam. You're going to do job hunting, and then you get a job, and then congratulations. That's a map right there. So it's having a big picture of what you wanted to do. So milestone is similar what I was using example, like the class is breakdown into milestone. We have lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, up to lesson 6. That's our milestone. I'm using that as a big event. Every day we meet specific milestone. Yesterday we made 2 milestones. We were able to complete 2 lessons. Today we're going to complete 1 lesson, which is another milestone. And that milestone is basically help us to measure our mapping destination to the final training day, which is 6 lessons. And with that milestone, we can use it to review our progress and review outcome of what we've gotten so far. And that is the purpose of milestone. So when you're establishing a project scope, you wanted to clarify the roles players in the while you're developing that scope. Who is responsible for what? As a project manager, you pretty much respond for overall. And you have a team, let's say you are using an agile approach. There's a title called product owner. I was saying yesterday about product owner are the visionaries within the organization. They could also be subject expert matters. If you are doing plumbing job or plumbing work or construction job, you will need expert in that area that will be your visionary to kind of give you idea how things going to be draw out, like an architectural work that you require to get the work done. Those are the product owner for your projects. Now, team are the people that actually get the work done, and the manager is the one that oversee the activities. Why do you need a requirement? I was saying earlier that requirement is what you needed for your project scope. Scope is something, what you are doing. It's like someone say, let's go do some work. And you come to the work and they don't have nothing for you. They don't have a scope. That's what it means. They have no clear scope. But once they have a clear scope, the moment you arrive to work, you already know what you're doing. I'm attending to 10 clients, I'm attending to 10 patients, I'm attending to a patient in the ward A, ward B, ward C. That is the scope. And that's why you need to have a clear requirement of what you are doing. The requirement is what activities of what you are doing and how you're going to do it. That is the requirement. And you use that to measure your progress. I attend to 10 patients today, I attend to 20 patients today, and I was able to feed them, I was able to do this, I was able to accomplish all those details. Those are how you're going to test your progress, and they're going to use that to measure your performance. So part of requirement aspect, which is your scope management aspect, is to document what you are doing. In case someone wanted to challenge, if you come to work yesterday, or did you do what you're supposed to be doing? You have a requirement traceability matrix. So basically, that document is to measure what you are doing, how you are doing it, and who is helping you to do it. Example of what we have now on the screen, it has a project name, the center of the project description, and they have something we call ID or associated ID. Like this ID is what we call a work breakdown structure. Something is like from the higher level, you break it down to detailed elaboration. It's like we are using what we call progressive elaboration to break work down from the bigger level to the smallest particles. Like this speaker right here, I'm holding on, is a whole big picture. But someone have this idea in their head and design it. But inside it, the smaller pieces on this speaker is called chip. And that chip is the smallest particle and the smallest activities you have to develop in your requirement in order to achieve this big goal, the speaker. Likewise, you have it in your requirement. And when you document that, you document it in requirement traceability matrix. That will help you trace what is being done, how it's been done, and also help you prioritize what you need to do first, what you need to do simultaneously. Do we have predecessor or dependency, which we're going to talk about lately, very soon. Any questions so far? You doing well? Other aspects, go ahead, sorry.
No, I said no question.
Okay. Other aspects of requirement is you wanted to measure if there's a change in requirement, and we do that through version control. If you look into your Microsoft or any Microsoft product like PowerPoint, Microsoft Word, Excel, they have what we call version control. Version control is where you can see who modified what at what time, what is the name, and why did they make those changes. So version control, you can establish those rules. Do I have full access to this document? Do I have read-only access? And those are the version control rules you put in place. Now, if you wanted to analyze the impact of that control, you wanted to trace. I was talking about trace and tracking earlier, which is like more like assuring and controlling work in terms of level of quality you wanted it. So you can hold people accountable if something goes wrong. That's the purpose of what you wanted to have version control, to measure and control your requirements. And also, we wanted to be able to do prioritization, which we're going to talk about another topic in this course for today. Prioritization is basically saying, what can we do first in order of importance? So there's a model we call Moscow. I'm going to talk about it later. So you wanted to see, as human being, what is most important to me? I need food, I need clothes, I need shelter. Those are my essentials. Those are everyone's essentials. Every other thing is nice to have, should have, or could have, and shouldn't have, will have, which we're going to go in details how to use that models. So there are different type of requirements, which is for your project. Okay, let me use this phone for example. Requirement for this phone is I want this phone to have multiple function, to have apps, to have calling ability, to have internet function, Wi-Fi, all that details. That is the requirement for the product. This is a product, iPhone product. This is Apple product. But there are multiple projects inside this product, and multiple projects like calling ability, ability to do text message, ability to download app, ability to connect to internet. Those are different project units. Now, those different level have different level of requirements. Now, for the business aspects, what is the pricing for it? How much do you want it to make per phone? Those are the business requirements. We define that. Now, for stakeholders, who are the end user? Anyone from age 12 to unlimited age who use it. That's your stakeholders requirements. And how do you transition it to the end user? Oh, any internet provider like Verizon, AT&T, all these could be your provider. Those are different requirements. So when you are defining your requirements, you come to that levels of details to establish your requirement. Those details very necessary when you are doing predictive approach. But when you're doing adaptive approach, you can go as you are progressing. You don't need much detail. And that's why the adaptive approach, they have a model called let's fail fast. Let's get to the market fast. And then we'll figure it out. You will see customer complain and then you start making adjustment. That's what Facebook did, Airbnb did it, Instagram did it. They all fail fast. And after people start making complaint, they're making adjustment and tighten the security, privacy issue, all kinds of stuff. And then now you have security, all kinds of setting in their application. A lot of adaptive nature of products, they fail fast so they can make adjustments. So they don't have all the requirements, but they just have what we call minimum viable to test your idea, if the concept makes sense or not. So other things for requirements, if you are collecting your requirement for your scope, you wanted to use different tools or techniques to collect requirements. So when you collect requirement, you basically you gather data, you gather information. So you can use your expert judgment. People that have done it before, you invite them, or if you are doing, like I was saying, example about construction, I need expert judgment, someone that did it before to kind of guide me through how to do it. So you can use observation, you can use brainstorming, interview section, survey, questionnaire, whatever method applicable to what you are doing, you apply that method. And this is what we have on the screen. So for creating requirements, I was talking about different methods. You can use interview, surveys, observation. Focus group is basically saying, I'm going to focus on age group. I'm going to focus on um, um, specific group in specific industry. That's what we call focus group. And you have to identify sample data. You wanted to create a sample on. That's a focus group. Facilitated workshop is like, I'm calling everybody in the community. Let's come together. What idea can we do to improve our community? That's facilitated workshop. So those are the methods you can use to collect requirements. So earlier I was saying, after you gather all your information, you gather all the data, you now start analyzing. So in the process of analyzing your data, you wanted to see, how do I prioritize them in order of releases, in order of importance, in order of budget, whatever you decide based on the product or service you are providing. There's a model we call MOSCO. MOSCO is must have, should have, could have, won't have. And must have, I was using essential for humanity. Every human being needs clothes, they need shelter, and they need food. And should have is like, I should have a car, but it's not a diode. It's not critical, but it's vital. It's vital for me to be mobile. Could have is, well, it's what we call nice to have. If I have one clothes, if I wanted to have different colors of clothes, it would be nice to have, but it's not required to have. I can wear this and wash it and dry it, and I can survive with it. So these are very applicable in business that are trying to streamline what they do because of budget or because of resources. Military folks use this all the time. Software developer use it all this time. A startup company that are trying to figure things out. Okay, what can we focus on because of what resources we have, because of budget we have? Should we focus on should have now to kind of test our idea? This is where you do your prioritization and do your analysis on that. So another method to gather data and analyze them is called mind mapping. I think there's an example here. Yeah, right here. Like a university, they're mapping out, okay, we interact with government, we interact with private sector, we interact with industries, we interact with educational communities, we interact with user communities. So you are mapping out your idea to extract data, gather data, analyze information to see what you are designing or developing, or as a service, as a product, as a unique outcome. How does it impact your full scope of the business environment? Either both internal or external, or combination of two. So you wanted to analyze that using what we call mind mapping approach. That's another example of techniques. There's something called prototype and wireframe. I'm going to use a sample to demonstrate that. I think I have one sample here. I have one website. I was trying to design my website at some point. Okay, it's right here. This is my company website I was trying to redesign. Currently, what we have now is this one. This is the current website, but I'm redesigning it to this one. But if you look at it, you would think it's a website. It's not a website yet. This is what we call wireframe or prototype. The difference between wireframe is like you are creating the idea and in a visualization approach or visual presentation of it. And so you can visualize, okay, you can click here, you respond here. So the difference between wireframe and prototype is one is responsive, one is not responsive. All right, what do I mean? Wireframe is like rough sheet. I design something in my rough sheet of paper. Let's say I'll start from here, I connect to B, and I draw it roughly, and I draw it in a piece of paper. That's a wireframe because you cannot click on it. You cannot click on it. But on this one here, I can click and I can, demonstrate the concept to investors and say, hey, come and invest in my company. This is how it's going to work if you invest. You can click on workshop, you can click on services, product review, and if someone wanted to enroll in my classes, you can do online enrollment, on-demand package, or in person. And here's the link to register. Here's the details of what you're gonna get after you enroll, and then and then if you haven't really decided, you can come here and put your information, and we'll do a follow-up call with you. And those are the concepts, I can select what class you wanted to do. You want to do weekly class, or you want to do weekend class, or you want to do work day, which is Monday to Friday. And then based on your selection, you will filter the available class, and then you sign up based on what is selected. And you can see about the instructor, and then these are the modules within the class, and all the details are provided. This is an example of what we call prototype. Prototype is something I can click and respond, but it's not actual, but it's like idea visualization of what I wanted to do. So when I wanted to develop it, I can give this design to a developer. Hey, this is my idea. Help me make it real. That's the example of prototype. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay.
No.
For every project management, there's a documentation. I was talking about project documentation yesterday. I was talking about statement of work, performance work statements, statement of objectives. All those documents are starting points to extract information to establish your scope. I'm going to demonstrate some example today. Okay. So let's look for statement of work right here. So you have a statement of work. This will clarify the scope of what I'm doing. You put a company name, address, dates, and table of content. You have the background of what you are doing. This is where you talk about the problem, why you are doing what you are doing. What is the pain point? Why do you want it to change? What do you want to, what exactly you want to perform or deliver? Then the scope of what we now talk about, the scope of what you wanted to perform. I have 3 milestones or 6 milestones for my lessons, and I'll put the scope in there. Scope 1, lesson 1, lesson 2, lesson 3, lesson 4, lesson 5, and 6. That will be my scope of my training. The period of performance is every weekend. I mean, 2 weekends, and the following weekends, which is next weekend, that will be performance in a period. And then place of my performance is going to be online through Microsoft Teams. And then the schedule I'll provide it 17 and 18, then 25, I think 25 and 26. And then acceptance will be you guys give me your feedback that, okay, this class complete the requirement to meet your 35 hours to become a project manager eligible to take the exam, and also to pursue a career path in project management. So this is an idea scope documents. I just want to show you guys this idea, how it looks. This is a template someone can edit and just add the information in there. You see they have different dates. This is what I want to deliver on different dates. These are idea milestone list right here. And then whoever is going to be a stakeholder champion will sign up. I'll approve it once it's delivered. Another point, another terms which I already mentioned is called work breakdown structure. Very similar to what I demonstrated earlier, but this is idea how it looks. You start from the high level. Okay, I wanted to provide training, project management training. That training is a high level, which is going to be 1.0, and the project name is PMP exam prep course. The breakdown of it, I'm going to have 1.0 1.1 for lesson 1, 1.2 for lesson 2, 1.3 for lesson 3, 1.4 for lesson 4, 1.5, and so on and so forth, right? And then in each lesson, I have different topics. Like I went over lesson 1 and lesson 2 topics in the beginning of our lesson today. So those how you break down the work. I started from the top, project management professional exam class, and I'll start breaking them into lessons, which are different milestones. And from each milestone, I have sub activities, different activities, which is different topics, like I'm addressing right now. So when you're talking about work breakdown structure, it's very common with predictive nature of a project, because you wanted to know every details of what you are doing before you starting. Predictive approach is very useful with this. Adaptive approach, they just do high level. Adaptive because they wanted to be flexible and make changes. So when you think about work breakdown structure, WBS, think about predictive approach. Adaptive nature could be combination of hybrid. Predictive and adaptive. So when they kind of take advantage of this document to utilize it to kind of plan work in advance. Any question?
Yeah.
So there's something we call word breakdown structure dictionary and word breakdown. Word breakdown structure dictionary. That dictionary is basically saying any key terms, any big language or words I use in my definition, what I'm designing, I have to define them and give detail. If I say description of work, I have to define what it means. If I say assumption, I have to define what it means. If I say constraints, which are limitations, I have to define what it means. So when you define them, you put them in the bottom list of your documentation, and that's your dictionary. So if anyone pick my document or with no understanding or primitive idea of what I'm doing, they can understand it. Any terms, they can make that work dictionary, word breakdown structure dictionary as a reference note to any words I utilize in my document to understand the terms. That's the purpose of WBS dictionary. Then the other one is called scope baseline. Is basically saying the we are talking about the project scope statement. That is the minimum document, minimum requirements I need to measure my progress and measure my work as a complete scope of work is your baseline. Baseline is like a minimum, like this is where it's going to be acceptable. So that is your baseline. And after you plan your scope, you have to think about if you're going to leave the organization one day, you have to plan transition or handover approach to your organization. So that's what PMI put that in their requirements. So for adaptive nature, which is more of like agile, they do their requirement differently. They use what we call Kanban board. What you are saying on the screen is what we call Kanban board. Kanban board is like having to-do list. You list all what you wanted to do. You call it to-do list. And then on another section or column, you have what you have in progress and what you have done so far. So that kind of help you visualize idea of I have 10 lists on my to-do list. I have done 3 so far. Am I in progress? Am I on time, budget, schedule? So, and then what is being done? You can use it to demonstrate, communicate with your stakeholders, and let them know what is being going on in your project. I think I have one. There's a tools we use in my workplace. It's called Jira software. This is one of the project management tools. You can use it to do the same thing I was talking about, Kanban. You can also use it to establish roadmap. See, I created this a couple of years ago. I think I left it. I did not finish it. I can do my to-do list. Is this in progress? It's done. You can decide the action. Do you want it to automate it? Not yet, but I can add more details to it. It's assigned to myself. I can put it to my name. I can put the level of priority. The name of the epic. Epic is the high level point of view of what you want to do. And when you finish, you save it. This is epic level. I was talking about backlog yesterday. You have a product backlogs where all your list of ideas is going to be. And sprint backlog is what you are actually doing, the team is doing. So here I have empty backlog because it's similar to what I was demonstrating earlier, to do, in progress, done. So if I move anything from this backlog, let's say for instance, I wanted to make this I will create sprint from here and just say it's I'm not able to do all this today because this is a whole class on its own. How to use this tool. So you create your backlogs and I put it, let me say, it's, so the purpose of what I'm demonstrating this is to show you tools you can utilize for adaptive nature because we adaptive. I have idea what I wanted to do. We release them in different releases on a high level, and you put the due dates in there. I can say this one will due April, June, and you can say this one will due different day. You can set those details in configuration and just do the setting. So you do all that details. When you finish, you save it, and then sprint is what the team is going to plan day to day for what they're going to be doing. So what you are saying is practicable. That's what I'm just trying to demonstrate with the software for Jira. We can utilize it. This is something I can demonstrate another time, but for the sake of time, let's keep moving forward. When you are planning an adaptive approach, I was talking about quick win. Quick win is like, I was using scooters as an example. That will be my first release. The second release is lets me utilize bicycle. That's my second release. The next release to get me mobile will be motorcycle. And then after that, I will use a car. And that's a different release and different iteration level. So in a adaptive nature is very different. It's very flexible and it's cost effective rather than just saying, wait a whole 2-3 months in order to get me a car. So versus in 2 days, I can get something to get me moving around. So backlog, like I was demonstrating that Jira software, is where you put all the information of what you want to do, all the requirements, in the high level for the product backlog. And this is where product owners, which is divisional areas, is subject matters, help you to provide details on what you need to do on that aspect. Example I can use in this regard, I was using housing example. If I have to do plumbing work in my house, so I have to hire a plumber. That plumber I hire could be also as my product owner because he will own the plumbing aspect of what I'm going to do. And he can decide to go hire a different plumber, or I can hire a generalist or general contractor, can be my product owner that knows plumbing, electrical work in the house. So Owner of that product is the product owner. He is the one that is in charge of the clear product deliverables. Am I making sense so far?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to use another example, so I will able to move faster. I have something the point. Okay. I use this on my different class, and this class for business analyst class. So I was talking about product owner, and product owner is someone that visionary for that specific aspect of your project. I was using example like electrician, plumbing, painter. Those are owners on that area of the activities. So you wanted to create type of information, how to gather information from them. And on the business analysis aspect, they start with information about the persona of the people you are addressing, or the persona in the sense that with the plumbing aspect, my persona would be what type of pipe I wanted to use. What is the building code aligning to that county? So you use that to create persona. Persona is more like you personalize what you wanted to do. It's like tailoring your idea outcome. So if I'm creating a product for customer, I'll create a different persona. Or if I'm servicing clients or patients, I'll create persona like age group. I can say from age 25 to 30, and the other second persona will be age 40 to 60. And you create different profession. One is employed, one is unemployed. You use that to break down more details. And then once you now understand the type of people you are targeting, you now establish, okay, what are the products you wanted to provide them? What are the services you wanted to provide them? And then you use these, what we call link canvas, to establish problem items or pain points that you wanted to solve for them. One of the pain points I established these courses is to help people work remotely, ability to make six-figure, and ability to be flexible, work wherever you find yourself, and ability to build a career. That is the problem that I wanted to create a solution for. So you create those things, use this like a canvas, and break down the unique outcome you wanted to bring out. And you use this to establish that. And then now, if I wanted to break all those things in details, I started with persona, right? I put myself as instructor, and I can put different persona who are the target, the client, the customers I'll be targeting, and what I will be delivering to those people. Is high-level delivery outcomes they should be expecting from what I'm going to deliver to them. I'm going to deliver training. I'm going to deliver. I'm going to deliver job hunting information, and then how to hunt for the job or set up the account to hunt for job. All those details to lead towards the success of being independent on your own. Those are the things I'm going to list here. And then the smallest pieces of what I'm doing is called stories. And I will create a story as there's a model of creating a story. I'm going to show an example here. I will say as a project manager, I want to create project management plan so that I can manage the stakeholders' expectations and solution delivery in timely manner. What will it be accepted? I don't want something less than 10 pages. So you want something that will cover the area of scope, cost, time, resources, risk, stakeholder, and procurement. And that will be used to measure if I'm successful or not. So I'm using this to demonstrate how you gather information in order to deliver products. You can use it for your startup business if you want to open restaurants. You can use it to run your own personal activities. If you run your household, you can create it to work for your organization, to map out how you wanted to target your customers, how you wanted to target your end user, how you wanted to target your patients. Those are the details you wanted to create to establish activities for your end users. So with that being said, I think I've demonstrated that, so I'm going to fast forward this piece. Do we need break or should I keep going?
Keep going.
Please keep going.
So the next one, after I know the scope of what I wanted to do, I need to come up with a schedule. Is this 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Like the class example, for instance, it's 2 weeks or 2 weekends and 2 days, 4 days in total in 2 weeks. So that's my schedule for this class. So you break the schedule down, and I'm going to talk about the schedule and how you manage your schedule. When I'm creating a project schedule, I have to consider the method of my project to determine the schedule approach. For predictive approach, like this course is pretty much like predictive / hybrid to some level, because I could be flexible or make changes. But it's more like predictable. You can predict, okay, we're going to complete this course next week. It's predictable. And that doesn't mean we cannot make changes or adjust. Once I start making changes and welcome changes or add more people along the line, I'm now in hybrid level. So I have to create a project schedule that align to my methodology. So when you're creating a project schedule, you wanted to identify what module works for your methodology of your approach for your project, and how close you want it to be accurate to your estimation for your schedule. And then what method are we using? Are we using hourly based? Are we using day to measure your schedule? Are we using milestones to measure your schedule? You can use different measure to measure your schedule and use it to monitor and control your schedule. And then when on my project schedule, you can also establish a report of that and say, oh, this week I was able to complete 2 days training, remaining 2 days. That's my report and verbally, which I'm providing. So in project schedule, I wanted to use historical data. If someone did it before, why should I reinvent the wheel? So that is the purpose of using what we call benchmark. If you are hired as a project manager, someone did the work before you got there, you might as well wanted to ask your management or company, may I get access to previous data someone that was ahead of me or my predecessors have access to, so I can know what has been done, so I won't reinvent the wheel or waste my time or redesign it to fit my need. That's the purpose of benchmark and historical data. And you can also use it for lesson learning. For hybrid, you can combine your schedule for hybrid using Agile or waterfall approach, which is predictive and adaptive approach. Schedule predictive schedule planning. Predictive is schedule planning. Use what is called the breakdown we have from the scope. I use example of, let me bring it up again. I use example of the work breakdown structure. Say for instance, our class, we have 6 milestones breakdown into lessons. And we use that to create schedule. We did 2 milestones yesterday, 2 lessons. We're doing 1 lessons today. Next week, we're going to do the rest of the 3 lessons, which is 4, 5, and 6. That is what is called work package. And I break it down into different milestones. And what is called critical path is like I have multiple ways to reach my destination. Which one is the longest path to get there? Like I'm gonna go to restaurants in the evening, for instance. Taking the highway is the shortest way, but taking the shortest, longer way will be the local route. Now, if you are planning your project, you wanted to plan for shorter route. The reason is because in case something happened on the highway, you can still go through the longer way. And that is the purpose of critical path. When you are creating your schedule, you wanted to determine what is the critical path in case my shorter way is not met on time. What is the alternative way I can get to my destination? That is your critical path. That means, is there any detour I can take and I will still able to reach my destination? So when you considering that, you also have to look into dependencies and precedence. Dependency is basically saying what must come before the order. I need to put gas in my car before I can start if I don't have gas in it. That's a precedence. Dependency is saying I cannot start my car if my engine is not good. Is my car starting on it depend on the good car engine, everything's working. Dependency also saying depending there is a good weather, I can go out. Dependency also saying depending that I have money to go spend. Those are the things you factor in when you're creating a schedule for your projects. So I was using an example of my course as a work breakdown structure. I have course I'm teaching right now, and I break it down into 6 lessons. And those lessons have subtopics in them as we are addressing currently, and use that to create activities and use that to create schedule in your project schedule. So dependency can be in different form. There's mandatory dependency. That means there's no shortcut around it. Like for me to build a house or what I'm doing with the project I was saying, I have to get permits. If I don't, I will get fined because that is a mandatory requirement in the county or where I'm doing my project. So that is one dependency. And discretionary, that means saying at my own choice, instead of using 2 doors, I can decide to use 1 door because there's no specific condition on the building code requirement that says I'm going to use 1 or 2 doors. That is at my own discretion. So while I'm using my own discretion, it is also recommended to use best practices. Okay. Now, external and internal. External factor is similar to county giving me permit. They are for me to do work accurately, I have to get permit. That's my external factor. The internal factor is my workers showing to work and do their work. That's the internal factor. Those are the dependency that I have to control in my schedule. And while I'm planning my schedule, I have to put all these dependency in mind. Now, precedence is what we call, what do I start before I finish, or what do I start and finish? So precedence is saying when someone wake up in the morning in the shower, off the bed, what do you do first? Do you have a specific sequence of doing things? Do you wake up, pray, or wake up, go wash your teeth, brush, and then shower, dress up, and go pray? You can create your sequence, and that's your precedence of sequence of activities. So likewise, when you're doing the project, you wanted to establish sequence of how things are going to be run. I'm going to start with having a land, and after that, I'm going to get a permit. After I finish the permit, then I will start. See, the sequence is I will start something and finish it, then start something and finish it. That's the sequence. Now, The precedence diagram method is basically helping you to map out how you're going to sequential all your activities, so you can effectively plan your work accordingly. So you won't be blamed when you decide to tell your stakeholder, we're going to deliver you a product in the next 6 months, but because you did not properly plan your precedent accurately, you end up being there for 1 year. So, and I'm going to give you a method how to manipulate that shortly. So the method of manipulating your schedule is called schedule compress. Schedule compress have two methods. It's called lag and lead. Lag and lead, or lead or lag, one of the direction. You can pick one of them. So I'm going to use layman language to explain both of them. They're similar, but they're different. When you are designing a project schedule, let's say I wanted to build lead. Lead is basically saying, how much time do I have before I start another sequence of activities? I wanted to put in a relative sample. Okay, I can start my remodel project in a property, and then 3 weeks after, I can go and submit my building permits. The difference between lead in there is saying the time I have before I finish one sequence and I start another one, that is lead. Am I making sense so far? Are you all with me? I wanted to make sure I'm making sense to you guys.
We're here. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I wanted
So
to use another. I wanted to use different example. If I decided that I'm going to cook beans and rice, okay? I'm going to cook beans and rice. So I will start with which one is hard to cook, which is beans. I can start beans, and I know the entire time to complete cooking beans is roughly 20 minutes. And I can now say, before 20 minutes reach, 10 minutes before I reach 20 minutes, I will put rice. Am I making sense? If I put rice inside the beans, because I'm doing beans and rice, the 10 minutes before beans finish is what we call lead time. So when you are planning a project, you planning lead into it, it helps you compress schedule. I can decide to cook beans separately. That will take me 20 minutes. And wait till I finish, and I'll start cooking rice, which is another 10 minutes. In total, I spent 30 minutes. But if I decided to do compress schedule with lead approach, I can start with beans, which is 20 minutes to cook. Once beans reach 10 minutes, I will now put rice and cook both of them. They will now finish at the same time. So total time to cook beans and rice, because I'm using lead approach, is 20 minutes. But without using lead approach, total time will be 30 minutes. I'm saving 10 minutes. Am I making sense so far?
Yes, you are. Can that also be termed as a multitasking?
Yes.
Okay.
Both of them are similar to multitasking to some degree, but they are not. Actually, lead is like multitasking. It actually is you can say multitasking. But I want you guys to understand what I'm doing though. Lead is I'm saving time. It's like lead only can be useful to something you can do simultaneously with something else, like multitasking, right? But lead cannot be used for something if you do not complete one, you can't start one. Like, for instance, you cannot put stew on top of cook rice. You have to cook the rice before you put stew. Am I making sense? So something has to go before one. But if you are doing something together, you look for opportunity. What can I do simultaneously? Or where can I save time? That is the purpose of lead. But when you are now using lag is basically saying, instead of put the rice 10 minutes before beans complete cooking, I'm gonna wait after 20 minutes. Beans will finish cooking, and I will now add additional 5 minutes to let the beans cool down. I will now take the beans out with another 2 minutes, total 7 minutes. I will now put rice in different pots or the same pots and cook. So lag is basically saying I'm adding more time and I'm giving myself time. So just in case it does not come out on time. So I will do that. So lag is basically giving you opportunity to buy time. Say for instance, if I wanted to get permit and I wanted to do work on site, I can have people to say, okay, I know according to county, for me to get permit is 1 month. I won't tell my client is 1 month. I will tell my client is 2 months. And what I did there is called lagging. I had extra time to buy time in case if something hook up I need to correct, I have time to correct it before my client find out. So you will see this in project management, people actually do lead and lagging to manage time and schedule projects. Did I explain this really? Does it make sense to you guys?
It does, yes.
Okay. This is very important to understand because it helps you manage things faster and deliver to your customer. Oh, let me explain these terms. So when you say duration is also saying time. Now, when I'm estimating time, from the example I just gave about beans and rice, you estimate your activities to cook. To cook beans, I said 20 minutes. To cook rice is 10 minutes. Now, what I just did, I estimate the duration. So now state the duration in the schedule. Elapsed time is actual time I'm using. If I'm using calendar time or using 6/18/2023, that's a elapsed time. Effort is the ability of labor measure in time or measure in another what we call days or hours a week. So that's a level, we call it level of effort. So level of effort for me to deliver this course is 24 hours. I make it up. So something like that. That's a level of effort. So techniques to estimate time, we have what we call 3-point estimates, analog, which is more like historical data, manually calculating things. We can use what we call relative calculation, which is like I'm using t-shirt measure to measure the activities, as I can say, large size, medium size, or small. So there are different ways to do estimation for your schedule. You can, if you don't have idea what you're doing, you can be optimistic, you can be most likely or pessimistic to create your schedule. So if you don't have a clear idea, you're also using different methods to establish schedule. I already mentioned critical part earlier, that if I'm going to restaurants, my 2 ways, one is to go to highway, the other one is to go to local routes. My local route is the longest part. My highway is the shortest part. But for critical part, in case something go wrong, I'll go for the longer part. So the longer part is the critical part. So that should conclude our schedule. Okay. So when you are establishing schedule, there's a schedule documentation, we call it Gantt chart. You can use Excel, we can use project. There's too many tools we can use to create this. So you see how they break down the schedule activities and they determine the hours, who is being assigned to, and and the progress, and then on the other side, it kind of give you the journey map on toward the end right here. So this is the milestone schedule. It's kind of breakdown similar to what I just said right here. Project schedule, network diagram. It's like you have different activities, you map them out from the start to the end. So resources optimization, smoothing and leveling, basically saying, how can I increase efficiency within your project? So how much time, like I was using example of lead and lag, leveling resources. It's like for lesson 1, 2, 3, 4, I can say, let someone train lesson 2, another person will train lesson 3 and 4. What I'm doing, I'm leveling, I'm optimizing my time. Instead of one person is doing it, I can have different people do the lesson. So optimizing is to increase efficiency. So I'm looking to critical parts. I'm going from my home to restaurants. How do I optimize that? How about taking Uber? That's my optimization. That's alternative. So I maximize my resources. Instead of using my own time to drive, I use someone else to drive, and then I'll be using my time to do something else. That is smoothing and leveling. I already talk about schedule, compress schedule. So speaking of lead and lag earlier, so when you are using schedule compress techniques, so you wanted to compress schedule by looking into fast tracking. Fast tracking is basically saying, what can we do simultaneously, like lead approach? What can we do to save time? And that is to help you save activities in the long run. The crashing is basically saying, can we hire people, or can we allow people to do overtime? Or can we get more people to do the work? You're crashing the things so you can deliver fast. So any of these two options, when you use it, you are open your project into risk of potentially, redo the work. It might cost you more money, but bottom line is you will finish fast. So schedule baseline is basically saying the schedule management plan you establish. So special enablers is when project is not going as you plan, how do you negotiate outcome with your project sponsor, negotiate with your project team? So you look into options to manage that. So blackout is delivery handed over to the implementation. You look into option whereby if you have issue with your project, how do you handle those things if you have a blackout? If I have a blackout, the NEPA took light, I say NEPA. If what is it called? BG take light or something outage on the then you have to plan those intervals to transition. How do you go live? Go live is basically saying, after I'm testing my product, how do I go live to make sure the project is aligning? So hardening sprint is basically saying, if the project is going in a specific direction, what is my critical part that I can build in extra minutes in there? In case if I have delay, in case my car break down, in case someone did not show up to the work, you have to put those things into the factor of your schedule to build final project schedule and final release. So adaptive schedule, as I show in software I was using earlier, Jira, you can have to-do list in progress and what is completely done. So you have different approach, and that one is called Kanban, lead-based approach. If you also use time box approach, you basically saying the next 2 months we're going to do this, and they have approach what they call program increment planning, and you plan something from the highest level to the smallest level. I think I have a sample I can show. Yeah. Yeah. So, like, this is an example I use in my workplace. You create a schedule for one life cycle called sprint. We deliver first 2 weeks. Another week we deliver. We release the outcome on the red side, and then these are the legends for the calendar. And black one represent public holidays. You use it to manage your team, basically, and to establish schedule. And this is adaptive nature. You see, I break it. PI1 is program increment 1. That's first release. PI2, program increment 2, second release. And you break it down in different release and you use time box because I'm using calendar. I have different release, different days, different months. And I put in the calendar. And I use simple Excel to do that. Sample I just demonstrate. I already demonstrated story mapping. So let's keep going. Okay. For our adaptive approach, let me see if I can introduce something real quick. Adaptive. Story points. Okay. In adaptive approach, I have an idea and I put it in a vision area, vision mission area. This is my goal idea. And then you break it down into different stage. And I can determine how many page, and this is what we call point system. I wanted to find another sample that have point system. Okay. Okay. Good. So I was creating a vision for my company. I call it one-stop platform to connect calling career to people. And I have different features: landing page, training center, career center, coaching, marketplace, event, blogs, and so on. This is for the website. High level, the page is going to do this, and small level is I'm going to break the story down one by one here. And for example, I say here, as a site visitor, I want to see preview of career through training when I click on image so that I can enroll. So I mean enroll. So this is going to be first part of release 1. I can say point story for this one is 20. Oh, sorry. It's 20. So what is story point is what we call relative point. Story point is very similar to something you can relate to, like 1 point as 1 hour, 2 point as 3 hours, 2 hours or 2 minutes. There is no specific definition for point system if you are using it to estimate time in your project, but it's just recommend you can use point system. You can use point system to replace hour or time or to use days. If I say 1 point for organization, you can all decide as a team. 1 point, what does it mean for our team? Does it mean 1 day? Does it mean 2 hours? Does it mean 1 minute? You decide that. If organization does not use that, the team can also decide and say, okay, instead of estimating with point system, can we use T-shirt approach? Okay, this project, this activity is going to be a large size, medium size, or small size. So those are the different measures of examining project points schedule. I spoke about definition of ready, definition of done yesterday. So I'm going to skip. Shall I continue or break? Break or continue?
Can we take 5 minutes just to grab caffeine? Do you mind?
Okay.
Thank you.